cigars, better whiskey, instant replay.
All right. Welcome to the special edition of Pints and Politics, where we're discussing with all of the York County Sheriff's candidates about what is most important to them. Today's guest is Tony Breeden. So, Tony, I'm going to let you tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
All right. A few people might know who I am. I grew up in Charlotte, single mom. My dad left us when I was really, really young, so my mom became a waitress pretty much overnight back when they didn't really pursue any child support. So it was just really, my mom did it all by herself, and it was rough. And, we grew up all over the south end of Charlotte, and I just remember there was a lot of poor kids that were like, man, are y'all okay? And I was like, hey, man, we're going to make it. And so, but we grew up there, and then one of my mom's husband, stepdad situation, I saw my mom go through some really bad domestics. I mean, to the hospital, one of them involving a firearm, and it just, from that age, it's just the only thing I've ever wanted to do was be in law enforcement. It's the only thing I wanted to do, and I always remember some of the Charlotte cops how some of them would be so, and back then the system was not set up for domestics. It just wasn't. Right. I knew that. I didn't know it then, but there was nothing they could do because mom probably would have got him out, so I knew that, but but you would see the ones that cared and the ones that were just like, you're not going to do anything about it anyway. So I was like, never want to be that. Yeah. Definitely want to be him. Mm-hmm. So that kind of formed the pattern. Got through high school, and even if my mom would have had money, college was not going to be an option for me. I took math for life, home ec, wood tech, and horticulture as a senior. So I was not going to an Ivy League. I called a couple, and they were like, nah, man, we don't have any big horticulture programs out
Check
here.
back later.
Right. They were like, our wood tech just filled up at Harvard. So I was like, all right, I appreciate it. I was like, y'all killed it in horticulture, though. So go in the Marine Corps, which that ended up being, phenomenal. And I was seeing a girl, bought her a ring, and go to Oklahoma. This has nothing to do with it, but it's just funny because the Marine Corps, what they did to me and how it patterned it.
Yeah.
So
what was that gunny's name?
Is Gunny Guffey. So that was my first realization that they're all clowns. So anyway, I go to boot camp. I go to Oklahoma, and there's 3 of us in the class and 3 openings. So there's an opening at Lejeune, North Carolina, Pendleton, California, and Okinawa, Japan. Well, each of the 3 of us wanted one. So we were like, oh, we're going where we want to go.
Yeah, I'm going back home.
It's easy. So I come in one day, and Gunny's sitting there holding. And when I first went in the Marine Corps, all the Gunnies were holdover from Vietnam. So, I mean, not the single most pleasant human beings you've ever dealt with.
Hard asses.
Yeah. So, understatement. So I come in, and he's holding my orders. And he was like, got y'all's orders. He said, Breeden, aren't you from North Carolina? And I was like, dude, I'm going home. And he's like, yeah. And he said, well, hing chong, ching chong, mother, you're going to Okinawa. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I just walked upstairs, and I was like, that's how he told me? And I was like, I just left boot camp, but I was like, golly. So all the 3 of us go upstairs. I wanted North Carolina, got Okinawa. Wanted Okinawa, got Pendleton. The guy that wanted Pendleton got North Carolina. And so, but in fairness, I was told early on that if the Marine Corps wanted us to have a family, they'd issued us one. So that was kind of fair.
I was about to say, the Marine Corps probably got your request and said, okay.
Right. No, there's no doubt. But then I went on embassy duty, and I went to Tunisia, Algeria, Syria, and then Honduras.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to come in and not go overseas, and was gone all 4 years. Missed all 4 Christmases. They said USMC stood for You Suckers Miss Christmas when I was in. So I get out of the Marine Corps. I come home and got a job at Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, worked in the jail. And I really liked working in the jail. I enjoyed it. It was of course, you always wanted to work the street, but I was there for 2.5 years, but I do feel there was a reason there, and it was kind of how I led because, and it set the pattern for me really how I worked the street and understood things because, and I've talked about it before, but inmates, especially on nights, would come up and talk to you because they want to talk to somebody besides an inmate, and it would just be for an hour, 2 hours, and it would be inmate after inmate after inmate.
Oh, wow.
So when they'd walk off, I'd get their card. They had a little yellow card. And I'd sometimes, when they'd walk off, I was like, man, I can hang out with that guy. Yeah. And then I'd read their card, and I was like, wow, the charges or whatever. And that was when I first realized that, man, we don't deal with scumbags and convicts. It's people's brothers, mothers, sons, daughters. And there but for the grace of God go I. I understood that, especially with some of the guys that I grew up with. So some of them are in federal prison, some of them were murdered. So I understood that. So it laid the groundwork. So then I had a buddy of mine that left there and went to Rock Hill. It was Ron Elkins, and he called me and said, man, you've got to come down here. This place is awesome. So I felt led to come down here, and I came and started here in 1995. Started on patrol, went to traffic. 96, got put on the SWAT team. Spent about 26 years on the SWAT team, a little under that, and then patrol, traffic. Then I was promoted to sergeant and went to CID, the Detective Division, with street crimes back then, and the first street crimes. So we worked in the Detective Division, and then we were still street level stuff, things like that. Then street crimes, left there and went back to patrol for a while, then made sergeant over traffic, then went back to patrol as a sergeant, and then was promoted to lieutenant and finished out my last 7 or 8 years as a patrol lieutenant.
Okay.
Well, what's your nickname in the Rock Hill Police Department? And explain why.
Okay. All right. It was bars. And like, people don't know. I would ride through neighborhoods and 6 and 7-year-olds would just say, there goes bars. And we would pull up the drive-thrus, and my kids are in the truck, and people are like, bars is out here, there goes bars at the drive-thru. So back in 1999, the IACP, International Association of Chiefs Police meeting, was at Charlotte. It was an international, just what it is. So we had a car on the floor that sound lighten up and sound off. They put lights and a computer in the car, and what it was on the floor during the show, and then we got the car afterwards. So it was our vehicle. They just put a free computer and the lights in it as part of their display, and then we got it. So while I was up there, one of the guys said, hey, this company's putting these crash bars, on cars. And it was back then, nobody had them. You see a lot of them now.
Oh, yeah.
So they called, and they were like, you want this on here? And Captain Cadmus was like, yeah, put it on there. So I had a slick top, no lights, but that. And so that's where bars came from. The cow catcher on the front, and that's where it came from.
Yeah.
So, but
I always thought that was cool.
I walk in, it wasn't that long ago. Brooke and I were out at the mall, and I was just kind of walking, and I was like, what's up, bars? And I was like, and I turned around, and I was like, what's up? And Brooke's like, are you ready to leave? I said, we can go in a minute. So, but I've never had a bad experience, even in the street or anywhere, the people I've dealt with. Never. I've never had, despite anything, I've never had a bad experience with people I've seen outside of work. Never.
Talk about some of the challenge and stuff that maybe you might want a voter to know about you. I mean, I know we had some stuff go down. What was it, a few years ago? Were you serving?
Yeah, I was serving.
Oh, he was the man. That's one of the things that, and I've known Tony most of my life. That's one of the things that shows you his character. Whenever we had the riots in Rock Hill,
Or attempted.
yeah,
Right. I wouldn't say they were. I would say disturbances. I don't think it ever rose to the level of riots.
It was protests.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so they started a fire in front of the police department.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, so it started on that Wednesday night, which our shift was working, and there were some things that I wasn't in the command post. I was outside, and so at one point they did light fire to the police department, the magnolia tree and the bush and all that outside. So the plan was I was going to escort the fire department down to the front of the police department and kind of be on the back side of the crowd that had taken over Black and Dave Lyle. Not really going to discuss that, but they had taken over Black and Dave Lyle. And the plan was there were going to be people come from the other side, and we were going to distract the crowd while the fire department put out the fire to protect them. Mm-hmm. Well, so it was just really one person distracting the crowd, and it was me. So the entire thing turned and like swarmed me, surrounded me. But I mean, I only got hit with 2 rocks and 1 bottle. So it's not like it was,
But he stood there like a statue.
Well, but
it was the amount of crowd. I can't imagine the guts that it takes to stand in the middle of that many angry protesters that just lit a fire.
Yeah,
and to stand there solo,
Right.
like that, with rocks and bottles, and he didn't, pull out his firearm, start opening up fire or anything like that. I mean,
but if you're looking at it, it's really just some people are angry because of something they didn't understand. So it's not like. And somebody asked me the other day, they were like, well, what would you have done if they would have just, and I was like, I think it was just only 80, So it's not like, 100's a threshold.
It wasn't 80v1, it was 1v80.
Right. So it's, it's like Chesty Puller said, when they told him he was surrounded, he said, good, we got him right where we want him. So, like, to me, I think the threshold is 100 before I'd start to need some help. No, I'm just kidding. But when you're looking at, they were mad. But, I was just what was standing there to just kind of, to take it out on. But it was at no point did I feel that I needed to do anything than what I did.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And, so it was just, and a couple of, I have two of the rocks. The rocks that hit me, they're on my porch. I kept those. I do have those. They're on my porch. So I did keep those.
I want to point something out that many listeners might not know, but certainly your better half in Brooke.
Right.
Brooke is a Lessmeister. So,
she's a Breeden now.
I know, right?
Right.
But as you're traveling around, I know you're a low country boy before you moved up here, Heath. But
yep.
You see Eric Lessmeister's name everywhere, and the love that we get in the community.
Oh yeah.
And she's one of the 3 children out of there. So.
Right. Yeah. She's and a lot of people don't know it, but when Brooke and I first got together, I have 2 children, and she had Colby and Austin and Devin. But the whole time we were together, we never said, I have 2, she has 1, or vice versa. We had 3 kids. Well, we lost Colby 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so it's amazing to watch this become such a purpose. And, and it's hard to describe not only just how involved, but what an asset she is. And there's been 2 or 3 times where people are like, you going to come up? And I was like, yeah. And they said, well, what about your wife? And I was like, I'm coming. And they're like, yeah, but is she going to be able to make it? And I was like, yeah, did they tell y'all which one of us was running for sheriff? And so, but it's such a good thing to see it. And, and she really is a tremendous help throughout all this. So,
well, we're sort of new to politics ourselves. Brandon replaced Sheriff Bryant. That's what people still call him.
Yeah, sheriff.
I replaced a longtime member of the House and Gary Simmerl. So I just wanted to, but we Brandon and I bring a fresh set of eyes to maybe ongoing problems or new problems. So what, as far as your perspective or your priorities running for this office, what do you want to do day one? What are some things that you want to improve upon that, say, Bryant and Tolson, did that you now want to take to the next level, or maybe just shift priorities?
Right. I think, to me, the difference, one of the good things that I see about this is this is not going all the way to November. Yeah. So, when this is over in June, somebody, and I hope it's me, that will have an opportunity to spend a good bit of time with Kevin and the staff. I don't know how much that'll be facilitated. I don't know what that looks like. But,
right.
So you're not just looking at it from like November to December and then jumping in January.
That's a good point.
To me, there's a lot that I would hope that could be accomplished with interaction and working with Kevin to find out what's been working and to build upon it. Now, the difference, to me, is that, I believe in just true frontline leadership and accountability. And I have just seen it historically with the officers that I've worked with, from sergeant to lieutenant, that, you can't describe to them when they're busy to know that their lieutenant is out there working recs, and their lieutenant's taking calls, and they're answering calls, and they're beside them, and they're directing traffic. Now, clearly, as a sheriff, I'm probably not going to work recs.
Yeah.
But they'll also know that there's nothing that they won't do that I'll ask them to do that I either haven't done or won't continue to do.
Yeah, right.
So, there'll be things that I'll show up at scenes and while they're active and do what I can. But to build on anything, to me, the best thing about this whole process is that, and it's not in a bad way, but Kevin's irrelevant. Not saying that in any dismissive way, but he's not going to be the sheriff anymore. Right. So it's not like we're running against him and you have to attack his whatever it is. And he's, for all intents and purposes, he's been a very respected sheriff, and I think things have gone well. But, it doesn't – you took over for Gary. And, you know, and for all intents and purposes, you didn't try and dismiss that, but you still looked at it like, I want to make things better. Now,
Correct.
better doesn't mean you're erasing somebody, but you also have to understand that we're facing challenges that Kevin didn't face 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He didn't have some of the challenges that are happening now and that are on the horizon.
Right.
So, you know, the things that I want to prioritize and focus on, they're not something he neglected, but might not have been at the top of the radar back then.
I agree.
So, you know, I'm somebody that, you know, I'm one of the few people that this isn't some retribution tour, or I'm not going up there. I never gotten in an argument with anybody up there. I've known everybody up there for a long time. There's some phenomenal people at that sheriff's office. And one of the things that people always worry about is a sheriff coming in with his own people. And so, you know, if you look at the people that are helping me, I'm one of the few people that has no former officers or anybody else on my, so to speak, team. And the reason is because I'm not taking anybody with me. You know, nobody.
Oh, right.
I'm not taking anybody with me because I have no desire or inclination or anything to replace people up there, because I can't imagine what a fool's errand that would be to start something with people that have been doing it for 10, 12 years or whatever the case is. So, you know, I'm one of the few people that has no desire to replace anybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, because you're not talking about taking over for a fairly close sheriff's office where a lot of bad things happen, where you got to realize you got to do something.
Yeah, right.
So that's not the case here. So
It's a how do they say it? Already well-oiled machine that's moving. So
Right.
it's just your job to come in and steer it in the
that's
right
right.
direction.
And but I also, to me, leadership is, and this is another thing that's different than me, and you know, where I was, I think it plagues that agency is linear leadership. You know, you can't have a successful organization, whether it's law enforcement or a business, if it's linear leadership. And that means that everybody is alike, thinks alike, and falls in line and does everything the same way. You know, I've talked about it forever. Like, if I had my choice to completely pick my command staff, it wouldn't be all SWAT guys and street guys and this, because I'm going to alienate half the agency immediately.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to, I would fail everybody.
Yeah, you got to get some buy-in.
I want guys and ladies that are 100% opposite me. Now, same goals, same objectives, same desire to succeed, but are not like me at all.
Yeah, their approaches just may be different.
But they will know that not only will I covet that pushback and want it, but it, you know, certainly not publicly or in the heat of the moment on something. But if we come out of a meeting and I said something stupid, I want somebody to come in and say, dude, that's stupid. We can't do that. Or
Right.
just to really say we can't do it that way.
Yeah, there's a
and
better
why.
way.
But if somebody comes in and just says, that's dumb. Why? It's just dumb.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't want to hear that. You know, nobody does.
Right.
You know, unless I'm just dumb. You know what I'm saying? And I'll just shut the door and be like,
welcome to politics. That's about 90% of the conversation.
I'm not. No. My son even agreed with me last night. He said, "You are the furthest thing I've ever seen from a politician."
I tell you.
I agree.
I hear that word and I shudder. I'm like, no, I'm not. You know.
But the messages that you get, a lot of them are, you know, that's just dumb. It's like no answer.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
all right.
you want to let folks know how to get a hold of you, how to help out, whether it's volunteer or financially. How do they support you?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to the Facebook page, which is Tony Breeden for Sheriff. Now, we've gone through some adventures with our website. So, because the day I announced, somebody went in and bought 5 or so domains and will be potential websites of mine, and so I couldn't use them. But whatever, man. I laughed at that. I thought it was pretty funny. But so, and it's BreedenForYorkCountySheriff.com. Everything we're doing is on there. And, you know, just to really kind of say that, you know, to me, one of the things that I have truly enjoyed about this is talking to people in this community that are really, really concerned about the crossroads we're at in the country and the county.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that I have had the most, you know, that people have appreciated most is how that I will, you know, my number one thing will be to start and protect the Constitution, because that's what everybody says. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. But then also people's safety, they're worried about it. I mean, their children, the small businesses. I have talked to so many small businesses that are so frustrated with what looks like it's happening somewhere and coming here with no fear of prosecution of people, no fear of arresting, no fear of security. And I'm, you know, my passion the last several years, even though my children are grown, are people's babies, you know, and our next generation.
Yeah. And,
you know, Brandon, you know, the things that we've gone through together, and Joe, you know, we've we're trying to work on getting a ministry type thing, the ripple effect that we've been trying to get through, to go over some of that and some of the fentanyl overdoses. And we were going to involve Keystone and some other agencies and to try and get people together to bring the youth, because we know how hard it is right now from middle to high school to the 2 years after.
Yes.
But the other side is just that, what's not just coming across our border, but it's coming across Charlotte. And a lot of people are and the funny thing is that I have just really been amazed at how many people do not want just suit wearing, comfortably speaking, not standing up for things, people in charge of law enforcement anymore. And I think that we've seen, and this is not a knock on Kevin or anybody else, but 25, 30 years of it when they, used to have like warriors in charge and people that had that mentality that, when I first started, especially at Rock Hill, nothing mattered more than victims. And we were going to pursue whoever victimized anybody in Rock Hill,
right,
or anywhere. And it didn't matter what it took. We were going to pursue them till they were found. And,
imagine that.
And I think that people are craving that again. And I've told several people that, you've already seen what I'm willing to do and where to stand and what I'll get between if I feel it's right.
Yeah.
And, and that's just, it's a difference in me. And it's some people don't know why they were put on this earth, and some people do. And I just feel it's the only reason I was put here.
No, we appreciate that. I mean, I think I'm new to politics. Guffey, I mean, you have a little more experience, but, we just try to be real with people.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to be. I want to point out one thing before we get off here. Something that I've always respected about you. For one, I can tell you that any time that I ever had an issue, or my employees had an issue, or my friends had an issue, the first thing someone would say is call Breeden. And I never really pointed that out. And then whenever I was talking to you on the phone, you brought up the point of the one thing that drives you crazy since retirement, which has been, what, a year? Oh, I have the coolest T-shirt with his high school photo.
Yeah. Several people do.
But anyway, so the one thing that he missed the most was being that person that can just help at the drop of a dime, and the amount of people calling. And to me, that's a servant's heart.
When Cabinets left, it was him, and then it just became me, and it was just all the time. And like I said, that's the one thing that I've missed. And it was funny. I've been putting signs out, and all ours are just in yards. We cannot keep up, but we don't have intersections or anything. It's all yards.
Yeah.
And last week, I put 3 signs in yards of people I arrested their children that they requested a sign.
Wow.
I arrested their child, and they asked me for a sign and talked specifically about how they were treated and where they are now and the difference it made in their life.
I got one more quick story. Whenever I started dating my wife, this was probably 22 years ago, she's on the way to the house. And, cell phones weren't as common back then, but then she pulls up at the house. She's like, I got pulled over in a stupid license check. And I was like, okay. And she's like, this cop, he gave me a ticket. I wouldn't roll down my window. I was like, why wouldn't you roll down your window? She's like, I was scared. And I was like, what? And I look at the ticket, and it's Breeden. So I called Breeden. He's like, well, why didn't she roll down her window? Was she drinking? What was her problem?
But one of the guys Jack, that's helping me, and he's become one of my best friends. I wrote him 2 tickets at Winthrop. And they were motorcycle helmet tickets. And he said the second time I got him, I scared him so bad. He said he wore it to class for about 2 weeks. He said he wouldn't take it off anywhere he went. So,
well, thank you for coming on, Tony.
Man, thank y'all. I enjoyed it.
Tony Breeden, candidate for York County Sheriff's Department. Give us a quick plug on how to reach you one more time.
Tony Breeden for Sheriff is Facebook. We have Twitter and Instagram. I'm assuming they're similar. I didn't set those up, but sorry about that. But they're on the website. Yeah, all the links are on there on the Facebook and the website, and it's Breeden for YorkCountySheriff.com. It's got our platform. It's got what we're willing to do, and it really lays out that there's just really no comparison.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
And remember, folks, early voting begins May 28th. May 28th, with the primary election 2 weeks later on June 11th. So if you're going to be, this is an important county election. If you are not going to be in town on Tuesday, June 11th, Be sure to early vote.
And be prepared for a possible runoff.
Oh,
Everybody
absolutely.
needs to understand that with 5
Yep.
candidates.
Yep,
So-
for sure.
Yeah, and that's going to be 2 weeks after the
25th.
primary.
Yeah.
So,
25th.
Well, thanks for your service in law enforcement, and then also thanks for putting your name out there and running for sheriff.
All right. Thank y'all.
thank you.
Anything you want or who you want